This podcast is hosted in collaboration with the Comsmith, the Peterborough podcast. We're sharing stories about why Peterborough is a great place to work, live, and play. What is a civic society? Do you think people know what a civic society is? Because there's a misconception that I often think about with civic societies. But I'll ask you first. What would you say?
Right. A civic society, I think, is not something that just looks at the past. Civic, so it's a rather old-fashioned word. I rather like Cambridge's idea about a civic society, which was the Cambridge Civic Society is called Cambridge Past, Present and Future.
Okay.
And I actually think that's what we are. We look at Peterborough's past, its present and its future, and that's quite fluid. That's quite fluid in terms of what you're actually doing, the amount of time you're spending. And for instance, I think there's a lot to be done about looking at Peterborough at the moment.
As we will come on to, I'm sure.
There's all sorts of things about looking at the past, but the misconception is that we want things to be like they were.
You see, this is that is what I was going to say. That people with civic societies think, oh, we just want to keep everything the same.
That's right.
And when something new and maybe quite unique and bold is put forward, well, they just won't want anything to do with it. But that isn't true, is it?
I took a group of people round the city centre last week, and I showed them photographs of the cathedral 50 years ago, the cathedral now, and Cathedral Square, the Market Square. And 50 years ago, it was filthy. You looked at the buildings; they were mucky, they were smoky, they were damaged by the pollution. They were awful.
Really?
Yeah, and also you look at the city centre 50 years ago, full of traffic.
Yes.
All the traffic down our Bridge Street, Cowgate, the market, and all the rest of it. That's one of the things I'm going to actually point out is the fact that now it's clean, it is welcoming, and it's quiet.
Yeah.
Sometimes too quiet.
Yes.
But it's quiet.
And it lends itself, obviously, then more easily to events and things as well when you haven't got traffic going through it.
Right. People at the moment have got this obsession about why the city centre should be used more. But it's quite interesting that because, well, there's two things. First of all, I think that there's probably now more people living in the city centre than have ever been in the city centre at all. You look at you can't stand still in Peterborough city centre now without being converted into flats. Look at the number of flats there are in Peterborough now. The new Peterborough people, who are they? And the second thing, of course, was that when the Development Corporation was here, what did they do, apart from Queensgate, which we'll probably talk about? That all of the developments of Peterborough were outside the city centre. Townships and associated supermarkets and shopping facilities and recreation facilities were deliberately developed outside the centre.
With the strategy of that was to.
I think the strategy of that was to create house. Well, first of all, it was to create top quality housing.
Yeah.
New top quality housing. When the Development Corporation came to Peterborough and Bretton was built, I mean, the people would move in from London or Belfast or whatever, and they'd be absolutely wide-eyed at what they were getting compared to where they'd come from. Fantastic. And we underestimate how important that was.
So you must see it then. You were talking there about visitors to Peterborough.
Yeah.
Enjoying or probably marveling at how nice Peterborough is compared to how it used to be.
Yeah.
So what is the perception then from the outside? Because you obviously have tourists, you do tourist groups.
Yeah.
And how does that compare to what you think the perception is from people who live in the city?
Right. I think that Peterborough undersells itself.
Yeah.
I think there lacks leadership. And I don't mean the leader of the council. I don't mean that side of things at all. I actually mean the leadership that we can all of us have got leadership roles in deciding what it is we want our city to look like, what we want it to be like. I also think that we're a bit sort of edge of the fence. Peterborough's a bit flat. If the Posh score 4 goals, the first thing that people say is, no, we should have scored 5. And it's a bit sort of flat. And I think our identity isn't particularly good. I mean, for instance, we haven't even got an accent. what's the Peterborough accent? There isn't really a Peterborough accent.
No,
And so we're sort of
light Midlandsy into
yeah,
Fens.
we're a bit lacking, really. I mean, I've often said that in fact Peterborough is north of the south, south of the north, west of the east, east of the west, but not really in the Midlands or East Anglia either.
Nope.
I hope that's quite clear. You know.
I understand it, and you can tell that often because when you fill in forms and things, sometimes you get a drop-down menu, and sometimes it is regarded as East Midlands, but sometimes it is regarded as East Anglia. So people don't know, do they? They know where Manchester, London, we could go through all the cities, but
the visitors I've taken around Peterborough have been really pleasantly surprised. They've said things like, "Oh, I didn't realise there was so much here." And what is quite interesting, John, is that quite a few of the people have told me that they've come to Peterborough since COVID. They've passed through on the railway many times. 5 million people travel through Peterborough on the railway system every year.
Right.
And now what's happening is people are stopping. I took a family round from Leeds, contacted by the Civic Society website about a year ago. This family from Leeds said, "We're coming to Peterborough. Can you show us around?" I said, "Yeah, all right then." And they said, we've come through the train going down to London dozens of times, but we thought we'd stop here. And the reason we come to Peterborough is because we don't go abroad anymore. We're exploring our own country a bit more. Since COVID, we thought we would do.
Okay.
But it's really quite noticeable.
That's quite nice.
And they're sort of surprised. Oh yeah, there's a lot here, isn't there? Now, of course, you're not going to spend a fortnight's holiday in Peterborough. You might not spend a week here, but I tell you what, you can have a really, really good weekend, long weekend. No problem.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I have to say, I love Leeds. It's a really attractive city. So for people to, but then that is often the case when my friends visit for example, for the beer festival, etc.
Yeah,
they love Peterborough itself.
Well, I mean, one of the things I did when I took the family from Leeds round is I talked about Peterborough's blue plaques.
Yes.
Right. But at the moment, there are 36 blue plaques, and there may well be more. We're hoping to get up to about 50 in the end.
These are notable buildings and people who have lived in Peterborough.
Noticeable buildings that have got a plaque on that recognise a person or whatever.
Yeah.
And the people from Leeds said, "What about insurance? How much did it cost to insure these plaques?" I said, "No, we don't get any damage. We haven't had any damage at all." They said, "In Leeds, we have to add in an extra cost because of the damage that we get through vandalism and stuff." And Peterborough really, we're fairly lucky. We don't get that sort of problem here.
Oh, that is great. Yeah. I mean, it's sad that they should.
Well, that's right.
Do that. Yeah. But so when you bring the visitors to Peterborough, what do you take them around? Where do you take them to?
Well, it depends how long they've got. I mean, recently we've actually been involved in sorting out some maps, city centre maps.
Yep.
Green Walk, and the shortest one is called the City Centre Cathedral Short Walk.
Okay.
You know where it's from? You go from Cathedral Square, into the cathedral grounds, round the back of the cathedral, and back again. That's all it is. And I tell you what,
it's a quarter of a mile.
It's blooming interesting.
Yes. Because,
now that's if you've got half an hour.
Yeah.
If you've got 2.5 hours, then there's a longer one. So it all depends really, because the centre of Peterborough has got an awful lot to what you think about the museum.
Yeah.
You've got the Norman Cross stuff. You've got prehistory. You've got the Lido, fantastic building in its own right. The cathedral's an obvious one.
Yeah, town hall.
The town hall. And you've actually got the riverside, which is something that I think we could develop a lot more. But I'll get on to that.
Yeah.
And it's actually a matter of accentuating the ordinary. There's lots of ordinary things in Peterborough that deserve to be celebrated.
Yeah.
They're not fantastically special, but just have a look round and see what there is. And people are always quite surprised.
So do you think we in Peterborough take some of these for granted then from that? Yeah?
Yes, I think we do. I think most people in most places take things for granted, particularly who live there. But I think I think Peterborough does take things for granted. Let me give you an anecdote.
Okay.
Many, many years ago, I was a head teacher at Abbotsmead School. And I'm going back a while. I don't mind admitting that. But we did a survey about people's habits, what they did, and 90% of the parents had been to Tesco's in Broadway. 90% of the parents had never been to the cathedral because they didn't think it was for them. They thought it was to do with some sort of high churchy type thing. They didn't even go for a look around. So what we used to do we used to take the children into the cathedral, show them Catherine of Aragon's tomb, show them the fantastic ceiling, show them the statues, perhaps listen to the organ, and they go back and they tell their mums and dads and bring them down on a Saturday to have a look, and it was free, you know. And so I think Peterborough people just need that little nudge to go and look. And just to look a bit more than they do at the moment. Nothing grand, nothing particularly posh about it all. Just go and have a look.
I've spoken to people before who've been in marketing or tourism. I spoke to somebody not so long ago who's been in Peterborough all her life and had never been to Flag Fair.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's things it is things like
I mean, there are issues around something like that. I mean, Flag Fair is desperately inaccessible. About 2 years ago, I was involved in a conference at the ARU Peterborough, the university, when it was new. And it finished early, finished about 2:00 in the afternoon. And a young woman who'd come from Cambridge said, "Oh, I'm really enjoying Peterborough. I heard so much about Flag Fen. Which bus can I catch to go there?" And I said, "I'm sorry." And she said, "Oh, no, don't worry. Next time I'll bring my bike." And if there was some sort of circuit, some sort of cultural, with a small c, circuit, I don't know, it'd be so much better.
Because even cycling's not great, and then walking, you can't really do it.
But I mean, if you think about, I don't know, the top 10 things that Peterborough might have to offer, you know, which might be a cathedral, Lido, Thorpe Hall, Flag Fen, Burley House.
Yeah.
It's Peterborough.
Yeah, just about.
Ferry Meadows.
Yeah.
You know, all of those things, John Clare Cottage.
Yeah.
If you think there could be some sort of coordination for those things, whether it's travel or just the way they interact themselves, I think well, it could be so much better than it is now.
Perhaps that is something that the Tourism Board Discover Peterborough might be looking at.
I think so.
I think they have done. I mean, you know, they've accomplished quite a lot, I would say, so far, and they will be. That's the sort of thing they've got to look at, I guess.
I've got very frustrated over the past few years. I won't mention names, but the numbers of meetings that I've been to where things are supposed to happen and they don't.
Yeah.
I look at life quite simply, John, okay? Imagine you're a visitor.
Yeah.
You're coming to the new station, the new Peterborough station. You might be coming to visit friends or something, and you walk into Peterborough station and you see something like Peterborough, while you're here, why not visit? And then there's these, I don't know, 20 attractions.
Yeah.
So you look at that poster, you sort of notice it subliminally. You go further down into Bridge Street or something, and you see a big placard saying the same thing. And in the shop windows, there's posters saying the same thing. Peterborough, while you're here, why not visit? And you sort of get the impression they know what they're doing. They're talking to each other, you know. And it's the same thing happened a couple of years ago. I saw this in North Norfolk. 10 things to do in North Norfolk.
Nice style, that. Yeah.
So I thought, I'll do that. Get home and I faff about. I do a lot of faffing about, John. 10 things to do in Peterborough. Just based on that. Just with some photographs and stuff. Just to give a focus. And I think that's the one thing that up until now, there are signs that things are getting better.
Yeah.
But up until now, we haven't had that sort of focus. I call it the glint in the eye. It's the glint in the eye. That's what we need, is people with the glint in the eye. There are some people around, but there have been in the past people who really aren't going to be 8 or 9 out of 10 when their maximum ability is 6 or 7.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier on some of the things that you'd like to see in Peterborough. For example, you mentioned the Embankment River. So there, what would you? That is progressing. So obviously with the bridge and things. So what would you?
I think the bridge is a sort of symbol, if you like. The bridge is being built by the Towns Fund.
Yep.
Okay, now the Towns Fund was £22 million government money, which was given to Peterborough for various bits of improvement, much of which hasn't happened or has gone by the wayside. In fact, there's an article in today's Peterborough Telegraph all about that. And the Signet Bridge is a symbol to me that you can actually do something. So Peterborough people will see this bridge going over the river from north to south, and they'll say, good, something's happening.
Yes.
Something's happening. Now, the reason I talk about the embankment is, I mean, the river, that's something else I should have mentioned, actually. The river, dear old River Nene, is a beautiful, slow old river, just getting on with its, getting on and doing things. But if you think about both sides of it, you've now got the new development at Fletton Quays.
Yeah.
Housing. You've got the football ground there. You've also got new businesses, hopefully, coming on slowly, but it's coming there.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, you've got the new university, you've got the Key Theatre, you've got various eateries, you've got some larger elements of green space. Wouldn't it be lovely for a family, whether from Peterborough or outside Peterborough, to come for a nice sunny July afternoon to the embankment? They could, I don't know, perhaps pop to the Lido for a swim. They could wander down by the riverside, have an ice cream, perhaps get a meal, sit and play a game on the embankment. All those sorts of things. I think that would work really, really well. Incidentally, I don't think we ought to have a new football stadium on the embankment. I think that would be a mistake. I think what ought to happen with that is that the existing stadium ought to be extended, improved, and developed. A community stadium is not the answer. In fact, the community stadiums that have been mentioned in the past actually aren't in the centre anyway. They're outside the cities.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
Trust me, as a Cov fan, I know that.
I just think that again, it's something that perhaps we've rather taken for granted. You go down to the embankment now, you can't actually sit and have a picnic because there's too much goose poo on the embankment. So you've just got to be. There's those sorts of things which actually shouldn't be too difficult if somebody's got a plan.
Yeah.
If somebody's got a plan, let's make it happen.
Mm.
There's lots of things in Peterborough that could actually be improved and could actually happen using the Guildhall again. We're not talking about a huge, great building, but there are ways that we could make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's been spoken about as a tourism office or a
well, that's right,
an open venue for
that's
things.
That's right. I think the main thrust behind what we do in the Civic Society, certainly over the past couple of years, has been to just make or encourage people to think just a little bit more about where they live.
Yeah.
It's simple to the point of being simplistic, John. I want to open my front door tomorrow morning and see that the world is a bit better than it was today. Now, the bit better, of course, we've all got different ideas about what bit better is. I was Peterborough's first poet laureate back in 1998. I'm very proud of that, in the last century. And I still go around and I perform, and I often perform to old folks in the old people's homes, and I talk about Peterborough, and I do some poems about childhood and all the rest of it. And I often get into discussions about them, with them, about how could Peterborough be improved. And there's two things that could happen, and the person that makes these things happen will be the King of Peterborough or Queen of Peterborough for years. And the two things are: get people to park properly, right?
Yeah.
And fly tipping and litter.
Yes.
If those two things, John, the Peterborough people could see those two things improved, you'd be their friend for life.
Well, you would. I mean, the fly tipping and littering, I'm afraid that's just every city, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
And it's
but do you fly tip?
Stuff? I hate it, and I hate
so therefore,
it.
Why should it happen?
No, and it shouldn't happen.
It sounds like old bloke moaning, John. I know it does, but actually, some of these things, the solution's actually quite simple.
Yeah, I don't. The littering thing. I mean, I've noticed in the past couple of weeks, just to say something for the council and the police now, that there's been some good prosecutions in terms of fly tipping, people dumping mattresses.
Yes.
And that's what something. I mean, everyone wants,
No,
a
that's
clean
right.
city.
Yeah.
On the parking, I
Yeah.
do know, and I've seen on your social media a few times, particularly around sort of Cowgate and that area.
That's right.
Park haphazardly.
Yeah. I mean, Irene and I, my wife Irene and I, we've been to Belgium quite a few times.
Yeah.
And love some of the cities in Belgium. And what they do in their city centres, they allow delivery vehicles, before 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And after 4 or 5 o'clock. And in between those times, you can't, because there's pavement cafes or whatever, you can't deliver stuff. And so the delivery firms soon find out about it and soon know. And I think again, that's something that could be really well organised. Because I mean, Peterborough's on the. If you look at some of the Bridge Street, you look at Long Causeway, the sort of cafe culture, if you like, which isn't naturally British, actually is really improving in Peterborough. There's an awful, people talk about the economy not doing well. Well, I don't know. Look at quite a few other people eating and drinking or whatever in the streets, and there's no reason why that shouldn't continue. In fact, I mean, I think that's probably what the city centre is going to be increasingly for.
Yeah.
It's going to be for leisure activities.
Because retail doesn't seem to be the way.
It's not the way forward. We might think it is, but it's not. I mean, Queensgate Shopping Centre. Okay.
Yeah.
Queensgate Shopping Centre wasn't Peterborough that brought it here. It was the Development Corporation. The Development Corporation, with millions and millions of pounds, brought Queensgate here, and John Lewis's. Look at that. John Lewis's store was huge.
Yeah.
You compare that to the size of the John Lewis's store in Cambridge, which still exists.
Yeah.
Having said that, the one thing I think is very peculiar is that in Queensgate there's no food outlet. You can't actually buy tin of beans in Queensgate. I'm really surprised by that, particularly, as I said, this new population in Peterborough.
Yeah.
Where do they go and get their food? They pop out to Sainsbury's then.
Yeah, or Tesco, like you say, the one on Broadway, or
I don't know. It just interests me. Also, as well, I think that the thread that I've been talking about here, John, I was asked about a year ago by some people, what's Peterborough good at? And I had to think for a little while, but then I came up with the fact Peterborough is actually very, very good at change. I remember being at school in the 1950s and 60s. We had the Polish population, the Italians coming to work in the brickworks, and then the early Afro-Caribbean population that came to Peterborough, and we were very good at change and assimilation. Then we had the Vietnamese refugees that came here in the 1980s. Got lots of lovely stories about them, and we had the Development Corporation as well, bringing people from the poorer parts of Edinburgh, Belfast, London for new housing and new work. And we were very good at change. And I see nothing wrong with that change as long as we accept that we change.
Yeah. You still, I mean, if you travel down Lincoln Road, that is somewhere that is vibrant for all its perceived issues.
Right. It's creaking, and one of the reasons it's creaking is because the sort of infrastructure, the type of buildings and the houses and all the rest of it aren't necessarily suited to lots and lots of people and lots of activity. And I'm sure that can be managed. Can I tell you my when I taught at Honeyhill School,
right,
we had some Vietnamese children. Had 40 Vietnamese refugees came to get with Charles Swift, the leader of the council, offered some housing at Paston. And these families had seen war. They were fleeing war. And I was having 5-year-old children telling me all about napalm and all. It was dreadful stuff. Well, I organised a football team. And the football team had the back four of Hung, Lee, Lai and Lu. They were Vietnamese back four, and we had our first match at Paston Ridings. I went to Paston Ridings, and the first thing they said, Mr. Wood, where's the tunnel? I said, no, sorry, we were going to another school. We don't come through a tunnel. He said, on the television. Half time, we were 4-0 down. And I was the manager, and I was really, come on, lads, you've got to get stuck in. Get stuck in. Come on. You've got to make sure you get to the ball first. And one of the Vietnamese boys put his arm around me and said, Mr. Wood, don't worry, it's only a game. Taught me quite a
Yeah,
lesson.
that's perspective, isn't it?
Perspective.
Perspective.
But that's what Peterborough is very good at, is change. And we mustn't underestimate. I mean, one of the things a few years ago, Peterborough held the record for you are able to travel a certain number of miles around the outside of the city unhindered, if you like. In 20 minutes, you could get just about anywhere. And the parkway system was absolutely revolutionary in Peterborough.
Okay.
Absolutely fantastic. If you think about when it was built with 30 or 40 years hence in mind, i.e. now.
You just mentioned them there. Do you think Posh promote themselves enough? Because one of my real bugbears, and I'm not sure who to blame for this, and I'm sure I've mentioned it to you before, is when you climb off a train or wherever and you're getting into Peterborough and you have to get very close to the football stadium itself to even know that there is a football team in the city. Whereas wherever you go to other cities, there's murals, street murals, and things like that. You're a Posh fan, obviously, so
yeah. I think we still have quite a sort of small town view, and the other thing is, of course, I think that we've got to think of our catchment. Lots of the people that actually come to support the football team are not actually from Peterborough. They might be from Huntingdon or Ramsey or Whittlesea or Spalding. They're roundabout. Yeah. So I still don't think we've got a particularly strong base ourselves. I think the stadium itself is perfectly situated. I do think we need an injection of money.
Yeah.
I think the thing is with ordinary, in inverted commas, football supporters, we know about 10% of what actually goes on.
Yeah.
And I think the finances behind Peterborough United or any club are probably quite complicated. Peterborough supporters are quite fickle. When we're doing well, it's we're the best team in the land and all that sort of stuff. When we're doing badly, it's it's no good. I think we've got to be realistic at the moment that we are should be a good League One side banging on the door of promotion. But there's a lot of good teams about.
That division, there is Leicester.
Yeah,
in that division, there are big teams.
Yeah.
That are in that division. Sheffield Wednesday, we don't obviously.
Well, I also think that our recruitment needs looking at.
Yeah.
Barry Fry has done an awful lot for Peterborough United over the years.
Yeah.
He's 80 plus years old now. You lose your contacts.
Yeah.
You lose the way of analysing what you're going to be needing. I think it's time to move on.
Well, it's 80. His health is, he can't be going out and he's not going to be scouting or networking as much, obviously, as he used to, is he? So, you say,
that's right. I think it's time for some sort of move forward, whatever that's likely to be.
And he will still be a part of that, I'm sure, but maybe not.
I think he's likely to be. Yeah,
maybe not the figurehead, but okay. Just. One thing that, how do you think younger people can get more engaged in sort of civic issues?
I thought about this one. I like that question. How can younger people get involved? And my answer is going to sound very peculiar.
That's fine.
The answer is leave Peterborough. Not permanently, but if you want to know what your city's good at, go and have a look at a few others. Actually go to, I don't know, Coventry or Leeds or Northampton or Norwich or, I don't know, Kings Lynn. Just go to a few other places, see what they're like, and then come back here and make the comparison. Because I think it's very difficult for young people to get involved in change unless they've got something to compare it to.
Yes.
I hadn't left Peterborough when I was a lad until I went to college in Reading, a city that wasn't that dissimilar to Peterborough. But when I came back to Peterborough, I sort of appreciated some of the things that Peterborough had because of what I'd seen.
Yeah.
The busyness, the proximity to London that Reading had. And I appreciated Peterborough far more. I appreciated the fact that I was an hour away from the coast. I could get to Hunstanton quite easily.
Yeah.
Reading, you can't.
Nope.
So that's why I'd like the younger people to have a sort of series of bus trips to other places, just so they can see what they're comparing Peterborough to. And the cop-out answer is, I'm not going to tell young people. I'm not going to tell them what they ought to be doing. I just want them to be interested, whatever that might look like, just to be interested. I'm not suggesting they should become counsellors or all that sort of stuff. I'm just saying, let's just be interested in what you want the place where you live to be like.
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you actually want it to be like?
And you will gain the experience of different cultures and different lives and different shapes of cities and roads and lanes and things, isn't
different
it?
Hobbies, different pastimes, different interests. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to conclude the podcasts with people giving people 60 seconds, let's say, about why Peterborough is a good place to work, live, and play.
Right.
What would you say in those 60 seconds, 90 seconds, whatever?
Peterborough is a good place to work because I think the cost of living is quite good.
Yeah.
To buy or rent here is a lot cheaper than it is in other places. It might not feel like it at times, but it is. It's a good place to get away from. If you've got a weekend, you can get to the coast, you can get to Birmingham, you can get to London. Within an hour, you can get all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that Peterborough has an incredible history. If you think we go back to prehistory with Flag Fen right the way through to modern history, if we wanted to do a timeline, in fact, I'd love to create a Peterborough timeline ruler to give to all children that's got so I think that it's a comparatively safe place to live.
Yeah.
Whether that's traffic or whether that is a sort of public perception of whatever. That's what I'd say.
That is a pretty good way to sum it up. Thank you.